Hello, good evening. It is such a joy to be here. And I have to say, being at the Royal Opera House is always thrilling. But now, even with the Insight evenings, it feels like I'm coming home. And it's so nice to see you. So welcome to those of you here at the Royal Opera House in London, England. And those of you watching online, we're in the Clore Studios. You all are on YouTube. When this is over, shut your computer and go do something else productive. And in the meantime, but stay tuned for now, because we have a really thrilling evening talking about this cathedral of an opera by Rossini, Semiramide. And the only guest that we don't have tonight is Rossini himself. We have an amazing evening speaking with Maestro Antonio Pappano, who is performing this as well. Some of my incredible castmates, Lawrence Brownlee and Daniela Barcellona. Unbelievable singers who have the incredibly difficult job of covering in this opera. That is not an easy job. And we also have the stage director himself, David Alden. And it will surely be a lively and hopefully insightful evening for all of you. We are going to start this evening. Oh, one thing for those of you watching at home on YouTube, feel free to comment. We love getting your comments. We'll read a few if we have time, but we love the interaction, so please join us for that. We're going to start this evening with Cristina Faus from Valencia, España. She's going to introduce us into the character Arsace, into his aria, A quel giorno ognoramento, with Nicholas Fletcher on the piano. Please give a warm welcome to Cristina. Cristina Faus and Nick Fletcher on the piano, a member of the Jet Young Artist program here, which is thrilling. And it breaks my heart to listen to that aria because we all know what's coming for Arsace and it's not going to turn out well. And he has this one moment of happiness in the opera. It is really a true pleasure for me now to welcome to stage, and this makes me a little bit nervous, but it's thrilling at the same time, your music director here at the Royal Opera House, Maestro Antonio Pappano. Maestro! Woo! Maestro, there's a few questions I've been wanting to ask you over the years, and now you have to answer them. I'm just kidding. Hello, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Long time no see.
Yeah, half an hour ago.
Yeah. We've been in Babylonia all day, every day, it feels like, for 2 weeks now. We just finished a Sitzprobe a little while ago. This is your first time doing a staged version of Semiramide. You've done a few concert performances a few decades ago, and that was it. But we haven't opened yet, so we haven't done a performance. But I'm really curious to know how it feels at this point in the rehearsal process, this piece.
Well, there are several things that I find very interesting. First of all, the scale of a piece like this. I mean, a couple of years ago we did Guillaume Tell, and that's pretty enormous also. But somehow this has bigger bones. It feels majestic, you know, and one doesn't tend to associate that word with Rossini. But wait till you hear her sing some of these recitatives where she's singing to a big mass of people, to the chorus on stage. I mean, they're very grand. And they have the same kind of grandeur that you would have expect, like from Norma in Act 1. I mean, they have that kind of stature, a woman in power, you know, and it's, for me, that's very fascinating. But it informs everything about how to create that grandeur and yet still respect the Rossinian style, which is one that is traditionally light, traditionally based on rhythm, and based on a certain drive. So these are kind of slightly contradictory things. Because there's a formality in the drama, it's very difficult to just for lack of a better way of saying it, go fast, to make it more interesting, to make it, you know, kind of theatrical. It has to, everything has to come from the inside, as it does from you singers. It's very interesting. As a conductor approaching this music, there's an incredible large-scale overture, but then there are many numbers, all having different colors, different different spaces of music. It's the best way of saying it. And you've got to somehow knit all these together and form this enormous first act. And try to see a long arc through so that you start and you go that way. Now, traditionally, you think of that as a Wagnerian thing, as, you know, something, thinking of the long view, taking the long view, when this is an opera built on aria, recitative, aria, recitative, a bit ensembles, recitative. So it's always stopping, starting, stopping, starting, which makes it tremendously difficult to create a big line. But that's the objective. I have to tell you that I'm fascinated working with, I have this amazing cast, you know, and you can't even hypothesize doing this opera at all without people like Joyce and Daniela and Michele and Larry, and it requires a virtuosity and a fearlessness that is quite rare. And it's great to be a part of that. You know, I feel like, how can I best help these people and show them off to best advantage? How can we keep the drama moving? But it's all about, really all about them. It's not so much about me and the orchestra. I mean, if it gets boring, then it's probably my fault. But if I'm able to do it well, I can keep the drama going, then we've got something.
Okay, now that's a little bit modest, because from the other side of the footlights, if we don't have the right conductor that is driving the car in the right gear and in the right lane and at the right speed, it's almost impossible for us, actually. And I don't know where that magic niche is. It's either right or it's wrong. And it can be almost right, and we can almost get it, but that's where it gets difficult. But when you have a conductor that feels the natural rhythm that we need to go, particularly in the fast pieces, then you do this, Tony, you do this better than anybody, and that's not false flattery. You know how to just find the gear. And that means
if I
we
don't,
can fly.
she tells me. No, you listen, to conduct this music, you have to adore singers and adore singing, just the art of singing. And I love singing. I love the spirit of joy that singers can bring in this music, more probably than in any other repertoire. And I love that feeling. I have to be honest with you, I'm also just come off of doing so many romantic pieces, one after another. And this is like, you know, it's like all of a sudden, you know, I'm not laid down with, you know, just a huge orchestra and a lush and harmonies. No, it's more classical. But yet there are these gorgeous sensual melodies, despite the classicism of the writing. So, yeah, if you compliment me, I love it that you compliment me, but I say to you that it's just because I love listening to you guys and creating an environment for you to, you know, to do your best.
This is essential, and it's sadly, it's a little bit rare, I think, in this business, where the singer's on stage where we feel safe. And we have this sense of not needing to fit in to be correct and to stay with the beat, but we have the support where somebody wants us to be at our best, and for the sake of the whole story. And this is actually, it puts us in a position where we are freest to actually really go into that place of the joy and the expression, and it's a gift. What has surprised you about this piece? You've done a lot of Rossini, you've done a lot of bel canto.
It's long.
The first couple of days you came back from a chorus rehearsal, you're like, This is long.
No, well, I conducted this piece in 1990 in concert form, and I have to tell you, when I came back to it, except for your Act 1 aria, which is the most famous piece in the opera called Bel Raggio, I didn't remember a note of it, and so I had to relearn all of it, and the simplicity of the writing, and yet how it's all there. It leaves enough room for the singers, first of all, to declaim, and therefore to be real flesh and blood characters. The recitatives, which are normally the boring bits in opera, or they shouldn't be, but they can be, these are top rank recitatives. Rossini, sometimes in his other works, pawned them off to other young composers, and they would write them. And
La Donna del Lago.
Yeah, they're never as good. And in here, the recitatives burn with intensity. Yeah. They really cook, and they really help the drama. As you know, and as you heard just now in the Arsace aria, usually when something comes back a second time, the singer's expected to ornament, to create, to make. It's like a jazz. It's akin to jazz in that there's the structure remains the same, the chord changes remain the same, but there's improvisation, or supposed improvisation, maybe prepared improvisation, and that's it's fascinating to be a part of, to listen to the creativity of you singers, to find ornamentation that not only can be beguiling to audiences, but that can show your voice off, frankly. And not all ornaments show voices off. Sometimes you say, no, maybe not that one. You should have left out, you know. But by finding the right way, you can really just up the ante of an aria, and therefore create greater tension, create dramatic tension, and the audience, and create applause. This is. You know, that's applause is part of the theatrical experience, and these pieces were made for that.
That's your job. So one of the things we talked about in the first day that you and I met and we went through the music is there are some even actual verbatim passages that appear in Cenerentola and some of his other comic operas. There's a moment in the Act 1 finale where Semiramide, over the body of her 15-year-old dead husband, I mean the husband who's been dead 15 years, she's about ready to declare the new, the 15-year-old is coming. It's complicated. But she's about to declare the new king and the new husband. And we get this music that is the Act 1 finale in Cenerentola. Da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. And then we have this fiery, queenly thing, which is completely different than Dandini's music or anything.
But a lot of the fast music in this piece, in a tragic, in the opera seria, the tragic operas of Rossini, the allegros can often sound like they belong in a comic opera, and it's very tricky for the orchestra and for the singers, for the orchestra especially, because instrumental, they don't have the words, to give the impression that they're expressing, rather than you get this, what I call toy soldier approach to the musicality. Toy soldier fits really well in something like Cenerentola, you know, the mechanics of the speed, of the drive, but here it has to have, has to sing always. Really, always. I would also tell you that at this period, 1828, right, we're talking, Beethoven is just dead. Mozart's been dead for 30 years, more than 30 years. But there's a real feeling of homage to both composers, both Mozart and Beethoven throughout. There's a quote from the Waldstein Sonata, da dee da dee da da dee da da da, verbatim. There's atmospheres of the magic flute, of the scenes with Zarastro and his and his cohorts, the scenes in the temple, they will go on to influence Verdi in his temple scenes. I mean, this opera is the Aida of Rossini. It has those kind of bones.
And you feel Verdi coming, like
yes,
he's right at the doorstep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you feel this incredible music that I think does come from Mozart and Beethoven, but somehow made Italian. And then goes on to then become even grander in the hands of Verdi, as we just said. Yeah.
So we're set in Babylonia, and it's, an old tale. Actually, Semiramide is a legendary tale that goes back civilizations. We're staging it. David Alden has, and we'll talk with David a little bit later about this, it has a very modern feel, and it's a slightly indistinct setting. It's not an exact geographical place, but it's clearly authoritarian. It's clearly maybe Middle Eastern, a bit of North Korea influence. It's quite a strong visual setting of where we are.
With quite the distancing costume. The costumes are sensational, by the way. They're just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But there you do feel time. You do feel the past very in a very strong manner.
Austerity to it. And it's also clearly a male world, which I find very interesting as Semiramide. She's now the queen. But it's clearly a masculine, hard, difficult world, and Assur brings that in. But even the setting has this coolness about it. Which
this from a woman who just had her husband assassinated. I'm just
she had her reasons. But it's this is what I've always loved about Rossini's operas, is how much he clearly venerated the woman. These are all of his female characters are feminists. It's really an extraordinary thing to portray those. But my question is, do you feel that this is an opera? It's often been seen just as a vocal vehicle for the two leads, mainly the Semiramide and Arsace. Famously, Joan Sutherland, Marilyn Horne, June Anderson, Marilyn Horne, these kind of iconic performances. But as we've entered into this and put it in a semi-modern setting, it's impossible for me not to think about the ramifications of this in the world today and what this is. Do you find contemporary parallels? Do you find it, I hate to use the word relevant, but does it feel like it has influence?
There's tremendous struggle in there between the characters. There's tremendous feeling of competitiveness and the thirst for power is very clear, and it's very bold and very off-putting, I would say even almost upsetting. And that you're caught, you're in the middle of this, and you've made a move also for power. And yet this is an opera where your son then somehow forgives you. I mean, at first, her son is a lost son who comes back, and she doesn't realize it's her son, and she's in love with him. It's a very strange...
Well, I think she's convincing herself. She knows that she cannot associate with Assur anymore, her partner in the assassination of the husband 15 years prior to the start of the opera. And she feels so dirty and polluted and contaminated. And she knows she can't go forward with Assur because it's such a black future. And so she says she's looking for anything, I think, to give her a clean slate. And she says, I know I need to find somebody young, somebody new. And that one, immediately, subconsciously, there's an attraction.
But look how political. Just what you've just said is the opera is extremely political. And in that sense, it has, I don't want to use the R word, the relevance, but it is very strong.
Yeah. What I think you see in this are people who are ruined and devastated by that greed and thirst for power, and the other people that it brings down around them. I said Arsace has this beautiful moment of happiness here, and that's the end. It only goes black for him through the rest of the opera. He's lost his father, the mother who's tried to seduce him and wed him then finds out that it's the mother. He has to kill the mother at the end. It's really juicy. It's really good.
Yeah.
But
And
you
there's
see how everybody's ruined by this.
And strange enough, in that complexity, Rossini decides he needs to bring a supernatural element. So the voice of your dead husband, and very much the music is identical in feel to that of the commentatore in Don Giovanni. Yeah. Very strong, very monolithic, repeated notes over and over again. Fascinating. But that supernatural element brings the opera yet into another sphere. Yeah. And to see characters who are so arrogant, reduced and fearful, you know, that's quite something, you know. It's
as if a big political ruler was being served with an indictment or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea. But it's the die is cast at the beginning, and the downfall is so painful and so really dirty in a sense of it's black what these people go through, and
she dies.
Yeah. I get a death scene. I never get death scenes as a mezzo. I'm so excited. I've been practicing in the mirror for years. Tony, it is such a delight. I'm so glad. Interestingly enough, the last time Semiramide was staged, in a staged performance at the Royal Opera House, anybody know? 1847. 170 years ago, so must about 20, 25 years after the premiere of Rossini. It was given in concert performance in 1986 with June Anderson, Marilyn Horne, Henry Lewis conducted. But this is quite an immense undertaking, and I'm so honored and thrilled and elated that you're bringing it to it was the Royal Italian Opera House at the time. So really bringing it to the Royal Opera House. Thank you. And
for you, anything.
Did you get that? It's on the record. Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. Fantastic. It's just there's nobody better. You all are so lucky to have him leading your amazing orchestra and the chorus. In all sincerity, I've never heard the chorus sound better, and this is thrilling. We still have Daniela Barcelona and Larry Brownlee coming up, which is really thrilling, my fellow castmates. But now we get to hear one of the glories of this score. There's a lot of beautiful music, there's a lot of famous and gorgeous arias, but I think the heart and the soul of this piece are the duets, and particularly those of Semiramide and Arsace. So joining us now back is Cristina Faus, and we have Hulkar Sabirova singing the role of Semiramide. We performed Barbieri together in Berlin a few years ago. She was my Berta, and now you're here with Semiramide, and it's so wonderful to have you. You're going to be giving us the first duet between Arsace and Semiramide, Alle più care immagini. Thank you so much.
Girare
Fantastic. Kulkar Sabirova as Semiramide and Cristina Faus as Arsace, Nick Fletcher as the orchestra. It's so fantastic to have that. And now, with no further ado, my friends, my castmates, Daniela Barcelona and Lawrence Brownlee. Long time no see. Actually, it's all for the cameras. We're really sick of each other.
Yes, exactly.
This has been a long day. We were in costume at 10 o'clock this morning and with orchestra and all of that. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Ciao.
Don't mind us. I just love you guys.
I me too.
Really. I mean, it's just to give a little bit of context. Larry and I. You remember when we first met?
Yes.
1960? No. Was it 97 or 98?
I think it was 1998, I think it was.
And we were competing in Tulsa.
And she won
Oklahoma
first
together.
place. Yes.
And
I won third.
you got
but
third
you
place.
won first.
Yeah. And the next time we saw each other, we were at Teatro alla Scala, essentially, performing La Cenerentola together. And yeah, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that was fun.
I was with you for your Met debut.
Yeah, Met debut.
Yeah, like a historical Met debut, actually.
Yeah.
I fell asleep during your applause
Exactly.
after your aria.
Which is fine.
It was so long. It was amazing. But it's amazing to have you. And Daniela, do you remember where we first met?
Yes, in 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, in La Scala.
It was a short
also.
meeting.
Yeah.
We were in a rehearsal room with Maestro Muti for Vivaldi Gloria,
Yeah.
and I didn't make it very long in that rehearsal. That's another story. But then we went on and did the concert, and it was amazing.
Yes,
but what has really been, you know, when we're in the middle of things, it's difficult to assess what's happening. But it does feel, going back to the Marilyn Horne, Teresa Berganza sort of renaissance of Rossini that happened, let's say, late 70s, early 80s, where it really, and we had Rockwell Blake, and we had these astonishing singers, and the conductors who had the interest of bringing Rossini back. It feels like we're still in that revival in a way, and we've been together for the last, let's say, 15 years or so on all different kinds of stages, and it has been an extraordinary thing to be a part of that with each of you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Lovely, yes. Yes, I think it's very, we have absolutely to thank Berlin Horn, John Sutherland, and yes, for the Rossini Renaissance, absolutely, because without them, probably we will be not here now and singing this amazing repertoire. And I'm very happy that we can perform here Semiramide, because it's an amazing opera. It's a masterpiece. Like usually we're used to hear opera buffa of Rossini, Barbiere, Cenerentola, Semiseria, and Italian in Algeri. But I think that Rossini Serio, it's superiore.
Yeah.
Superior, yes.
Superior, yes. It's most interesting. Sorry for my English. Sorry.
It's fantastic.
Sorry for my English.
It's so good.
Thank you so much.
Facciamo in italiano. Facciamo in italiano.
Right.
So and I'm very proud, very happy to be with these amazing singers here and colleagues and friends. This is a great opportunity.
I have a question. Because we really are sincerely dear friends, and it is something to share the stage and share a monumental moment. This is big to bring Semiramide here after so long in a staged version. And we're friends, and I know we all want each other to succeed. But Tony said this earlier too. There is an inherent competitiveness about this music. We just heard it in the duet with Cristina and Hulka, that we have to repeat one after the other. And when you're met with astonishing colleagues, you think, oh, okay, I better bring my A game tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know, for me, I love that. I love to revel in the success of other people, but also it's competitive.
Yeah.
Larry, how do you have it a bit easier because you're a tenor. But no, I mean, how do you sense that? Does it kind of fuel you?
You know, I always start thinking that I want to never take away from the level that's been set. And if it's me starting the show, I think that I always want to try to set a certain level that people can build off of. When you think about Rossini that's done well, there are moments for everyone to shine. And for me, as an artist and a colleague, I think it's important to give the stage. I remember, as you said before, both of you, countless times that we performed together, and all the moments that I have been on stage taking from the miraculous performances that you both have given. You know, for me, it fuels me to say, okay, one thing, I'm on the stage with these people that are fantastic musicians and artists, and so there's a certain responsibility that I have also to be at that certain level. So a lot of times before I get on the stage, I will say, oh my gosh, I'm singing with Daniela tonight, I'm singing with Joyce tonight, and some of these other colleagues. And so you want to serve the music, but you want to make sure that you're a part of the bigger picture and that your part is done so well that you don't take away, you don't detract away from what your colleagues are bringing, that you are sure that they're going to provide for this performance.
This is, I think, one of the real keys to making Rossini work, is when it is your moment to shine, you have to shine. Otherwise you're lost. But you also have to know how to go into the ensemble and be a chamber musician. Because so much of what we have in this piece and in all of the things of Rossini pieces, there are those quintets and quartets that have to be like clockwork. So you have to be a generous colleague as well in that to make
I think the beauty of some of those moments, like the sextet in Cenerentola, and like, of course, and we have this at the end of Act 1, the Giuro ai Numi, it really, we were talking in the rehearsals, and I said, you know, it's really important that I take a back seat to the melody that has to come out, because the real beauty and the music, the genius, I think, of Rossini comes out when we can serve the bigger picture and really make those moments come out that he intended to be masterful, I think, if that makes sense.
100%. Daniela, you've lived for a bit longer with Arsace than we have with our roles. How do you come into a production that looks very different, feels different, the cast is very different, because so much of the duets that, you know, you would have to change things with a different Semiramide, etc. How do you come in and keep it fresh and rework it to keep it in shape, because it's such a technically beastly kind of a role?
Every time I sing the same role, for example, Tancredi or Arsace, I try to find something new new ornaments sometimes, new ornaments also if I have a different partner. When I sing with you, I can do more expression, more feelings, because we are so well matched together, singing together, so I can express more. Yes, every time I sing, the same role is different for me because my life is different. I have different experiences before this, and I try to bring the new things I ho appreso.
Sì.
I assimilate, yes, from my life, from the colleagues, and of course, in this occasion, I tell this because I'm very happy of this. I'm singing with big friends, so this is easier because we exactly understand what for example, I have duets with Joyce, and I understand exactly what she wants to do, what she wants to give to the audience, and I try to, and I think it's the same for her, and this is something unique. The performance is something unique that you give to the audience, and is something coming from the heart. I think this is, and so this is really, I'm very proud to be in this production because there is lots of feelings inside this opera, and we can express everything with these amazing singers. And yes.
Yeah. I think it's a level of trust that you're talking about that has been built up over a lot of years together on the stage and off. We've all been through a lot of things in our life, even off stage, that we do bring to the stage, and we've been by each other's sides in various ways for that. And I think what the audience then benefits from is a level of trust. So it means I don't have to worry about different things, and we can find something new every night.
Yeah.
And if you do something, if you're inspired, I know where you're coming from, and I pick up right on it, and we pass it off like tennis to each other, and the audience, I think, benefits because of that.
I think it's part of that is being in tune with your colleagues, and so, as you said before, having that level of trust that you've seen great performances, and more than that, you've seen the work outside that's been put into it.
Yes.
People don't arrive to stage just starting, that night to say, I'm going to sing Arsace. Hours and hours and months and years has been put into this, and so we can understand and respect the work that has been done, and so I think that's where you're more in tune because you know the work that's been done.
Your role, Idreno,
Yes.
is the outsider in the opera, right? We're all in this familial political drama, and all of a sudden this gorgeous, exotic prince shows up in the most astonishing costume. It's no joke. The costumes in this show are just...
They're great.
They're some of my favorite that I've ever worn, and you look amazing in it. How do you then assimilate into this thing where you really are, as an outsider, you're imposed in a way on this story? Probably Rossini had to write for the tenor, so we put it in.
Right.
I have my own idea about it, but I want to hear, what your thoughts are.
I've given this a lot of thought. Yes, he is a real part of the subplot. Okay, you have the big plot and you have the subplot. But I think, for example, the aria A dove il cimento really sets up why she is the object of someone and of everyone's affection.
Azzema.
Azzema's affection. You have someone on stage singing to her about her beauty, what she does. And so I think then you can understand why Arsace is in love with Azzema and why Assur is in love with Azzema, and also Idreno wants Azzema as well. So it is, if that aria is done well, and it can be done in a way, because the writing is virtuosic, and I hope that I can acquit it as well as I can, but I think it really does set up the story in a way that you can understand again why she is the object of everyone's affection.
Because Azzema is in a way, a peripheral musical character, but she's one of the central pillars in the object, as you say, of so many things, and a catalyst for a lot of what's happening. And it's the fact that you say that you really venerate her in a way, it gives it substance. I also feel when I hear you do it, I think, oh, that's the vocal color and the musical color that's missing from the rest of the opera. It's like a palate cleanser in a way, in a very significant way. It gives the ear something new, something more romantic, something more sensual to hold on to. And then it highlights the sort of angularity of some of the other and declamatory sides of some of the music that we have. And so I think this is, a lot of times people don't use the word genius with Rossini. I do with a capital G, and I think that is the genius. He knew how to craft the musical language of each character, particularly in this piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
I truly think it fortifies the story otherwise, and it gives a lot of importance to your story, the story between the three of you, because that is put in there.
What do you think happens to Arsace after?
I don't know. Maybe he's so. It feels so. He will be king, of course, but I think he will. If we feel so guilty for killing his mother, I think he will not be happy at all. Yes, absolutely.
Maybe he looks for Zima.
Yes, maybe.
This would be, if I were a composer, I might actually say, this is a good sequel.
Yeah, search for Zima.
Arsace's Revenge.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you all feel that this fits into the current climate of 2017, this piece? We only have about 1 minute, just so you know.
I would say that there are some parallels.
Yeah.
Of course, you can derive from any story, I think, something that you can place this in today's culture and find a lot of parallels. And so I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think when there is power and politics, you can fit everywhere. Power and politics are everywhere, so I think it's something usual today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what is it?
It's good for us to look. Actually, I mean, I feel about it with this opera that we have the chance to present a cathedral of an opera that is not so well known, but it will feel familiar to people that are coming to it for the first time. But it's something to look at ourselves. It's what great art does. It gives us the chance to also look at who we are.
And everything that, when something's not done so often, I think it's a real responsibility. I look at it this way.
Yes.
To do it as well as we can. And for me, it's such an honor, as I said before, to be with the two of you and the rest of our colleagues, but also the maestro. And the chorus sounds great, and the orchestra sounds fantastic, and all of the support. And so that gives me the inspiration to bring my best. And so, that's my hope, is that we can bring our best, and so people can see something, again, that's not done so often done at the very highest level.
And discover it. Larry and Daniela, thank you so much, really, and for sharing your insights and giving up your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you bright and early in the morning. Back in Babylonia. Thank you all so much. Daniela. Thank you. Larry.
Grazie.
Yeah, they are treasures, tresori, definitely. In a few minutes, we will be joined by the stage director, David Alden, which will be thrilling. But in the meantime, we have another beautiful excerpt from Semiramide, and this is by Konu Kim, who is going to sing Idreno's aria, A dov'è il cimento, also again with Nick Fletcher on the piano.
Dov'è il cimento?
Fletcher on the piano. Kanu is a member of the Jet Young Artist Program here, and just a few nights ago made his Royal Opera House debut in Lucia, which is very thrilling. You hear the insanity of that vocal writing. It's Rossini, what have you done to us? We do have David Alden coming in just a second, but I want to welcome and say in YouTube, we're so happy that you're watching. You're watching from the United States of America, Brazil, France. Obrigada, merci. We love having you here, and we love sharing this evening with you. Keep your comments coming. We love it. Please help me welcome to the stage our stage director, David Alden. Oh, you're so...
After pushing her around all day on stage, a little politeness might help.
Oh, no, we're all good. Our context, we first met in 1997.
Yes. I was doing Verdi's Scottish opera. You know that one. And it was Kathy Malfitano doing her first Lady Macbeth. And the very important, but not such big role of the Lady in Waiting, this was in Houston, Texas, was sung by a young, very unknown, but rather up-and-coming singer called Joyce DiDonato.
I don't think I was up-and-coming yet, actually.
Well,
I was still sorting a lot of things out.
You were crawling up slowly.
But that's still, it's the only Verdi I've ever sung on stage.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was fun. And then fast forward 20 years, and here we are.
More.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
So we started working on this in Munich.
Yes,
in
we
January.
did. We did it in Munich last year. That was the first time we did it. It was an out-of-town tryout for London. Right.
And it's your first time staging the opera.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
One of the things you need to know about David Alden is it's
don't tell them that.
No, well, not that thing.
Oh, okay,
the
other thing. Fine, okay.
Is it's very intimidating to work on a production of his because he's quite infamous for knowing the score inside and out. And he can sing every part, no matter how large or how small. He knows exactly what's happening in the orchestra. He's an opera conductor who comes in knowing the blueprint of his piece, every word, every note. And
I have an incredible voice. The top notes are really very strong. I have a very low register. The problem is there's a big hole in the middle. This comes from singing too much Schrecker.
Yeah, but it is. It's intimidating in a way because, and it's also very safe.
Yeah.
Because we come in and we know that we're in very good hands.
Yes, I did when I did Yanufa once, also in Houston with Malfitano and with Patricia Rosset together, and I was singing some of the scene as I often do in rehearsals, and Malfitano turned to Rosset and said, "He's finally losing his high notes." There you are. Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
John Copley is the other one.
Yes, I know.
Who very famously
Yes.
can sing every note of the score,
Absolutely.
sometimes
Yes.
better than we can.
Right.
What has surprised you about working on this piece?
Oh, well, I've known this piece since the 60s,
Yeah.
when the original, well, not the original cast, the original cast recording came out with Sutherland and Horn and Bonning conducting. That was the first time one had the opportunity to hear this is a legendary opera, but never done. And those singers really brought it back then. And since then, I find Rossini's serious operas, I've known them for a long time, and I've always thought they were amazing artifacts. But I must say, in the past, I always felt like Rossini was probably the greatest comic opera composer in history. I mean, vying with Mozart, let's say. And I was always wondered, okay, these are amazing pieces with bizarre stories and extraordinarily complicated music and gigantic machines, but is it theater? What is it? You know, or is it a strange artifact from the past that, in a way, is more of a concert item? And actually, strangely enough, a couple of years ago, the Welsh Opera did a whole series of serious Rossini operas, and David Pountney was in charge of the company and was directing one or two of them. And he called me on the phone. He said, "Okay, I know you've done some of these serious Rossini operas. Now tell me, what do you think? Did Rossini write really specifically for each story and each character, or is this music interchangeable with his comedies?" And he was trying to figure it out. And I said at the time, I really don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. Because there's all these, we were talking earlier about Rossini, the serious opera versus the comic opera. There's a famous example in Rossini's Otello, which was the most famous Otello before Verdi. In the scene when Otello is murdering Desdemona, just when he's strangling her, the music is playing. This is Don Basilio's aria La Calunnia from The Barber of Seville.
One of the great comic arias.
Yes, and so I think Rossini was extraordinarily ironic guy and rather detached from life on some levels, a complete genius, but yeah, there's a famous story about Rossini. I'll get all my stories out of the way quickly. There's a famous story from Rossini. He said, "There were 3 times in my life when I really wept. The first time was when the Barbiere at the premiere was a terrible failure. The second time was when my mother died. And the third time, the most heartbreaking time, was when I was at a picnic and a truffled turkey fell to the mud before we could eat it." So there, those are his priorities.
You gotta love it.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
You gotta love it.
You gotta question it too.
We have a few images from the production.
God. Okay. Yeah.
We take a look. Can you talk us through
I
a
can
little
talk
bit?
just before we do that.
Yes.
Speaking of the relevance of this opera today, opera productions have to be designed many years in advance because they're such a big deal and it takes so much time and money and blah, blah, blah to do them. So this show was designed probably 4 years ago, actually. And there's 2 things in the production, as it turns out, which are shockingly current. There's these giant, it's a sort of, production is set in a kind of totalitarian state. And there's these giant photographs on the meeting room and the giant hall of the king who was murdered with his wife, Semiramide, and their child at the time, 15 years earlier. And as it turns out, it's hard to see here, it looks awfully like, well, Donald Trump and Melania and Barron, their son.
Yeah, it does.
But this was several years before Trump was, going to
Where
be in
did the
politics.
inspiration come from then?
Well, I was thinking more of Onassis, Jackie Kennedy, John Kennedy. We were thinking of various parallels in the past, and we kind of put together collage photos. So there's that, and also the design of the production and creating the world for this production. We made a kind of collage and a kind of mashup of a Middle Eastern country, and we also injected elements of North Korea. So now, North Korea, I mean, this is life imitating art, and that's never a good thing. Okay, anyway, there we are. That's what the show is now. Yeah.
And this is
yes.
this picture has changed a little bit.
Yes, it has a little bit.
So this is an image from Munich.
This is the great hall in the palace, and there's this immense. This is the first scene when the people are let in to worship this image of Baal, the god, and the queen is supposed to come and announce who's going to be the new king, and it's sort of North Korea-esque-ish. Yeah.
What I love about being in this set is you feel the weight of the formality and the weight of her destiny.
The other thing is when we were working on this show, I assumed I had this whole season, last season, of powerful women in power in opera, and I was assuming that Hillary Clinton was going to be the president, and everything was. I was thinking about all these operas in that way, and then of course, whoosh.
Yeah.
So it makes the role of the woman in power, even more complicated and interesting.
It does,
today,
and being in the set and costumes are so important for us because it's our world, and we have to understand it and feel it on the set so that you in the audience will understand the place that we are, and it feels austere and as if she's. You know, the women that we have, you mentioned Jackie Kennedy or Melania, these women, in a way, their lives are not theirs. And they're set on this track and have to somehow put on the face and the gesture to do it. This definitely gives the feeling of the Middle Eastern sense. Buki Schmidt did the Schiff did the costumes.
Great costume designer who did the nose here last year. Tremendous, insane costumes.
She put me in a pantsuit here out of blue chiffon, and it feels like Dior from the 50s or something.
Yeah.
What I love about the costumes and this set is we get to disappear entirely in it, and that's important for this kind of a role that is, you know, Semiramide is quite broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we
That's
are.
the finale of Act 1 when the dead king rises out of his tomb to menace the people who are plotting to take over the throne.
But we've changed this a little bit.
Yes, we have. I had a lot of film and imagery when we did it in Munich last year, and then I felt that we didn't need it, that I wanted to cut away. This is called editing. You're seeing the director's cut this time. Yeah. No, it's called editing.
Do you do that often with your productions?
Sometimes I'm really happy and I think it couldn't be better, and then sometimes it's only the beginning, and that's the great thing about opera, because you get to do, with all the co-productions nowadays, with productions for financial reasons shared by different companies, you get to do it several times, and you can, you know, fix it up. Yeah.
It feels so good to be in this world that you've created. When you are planning a production like this, and is your first step going in to study the music?
Well, I already knew the music.
I
usually know the music for these operas. I've known them since I was 15. I had my repertoire, or I already knew Wagner, Mozart, Verdi, Strauss, Puccini, Rossini, blah, blah, Janacek, you know, Britten, blah, blah, blah.
And do you...
Yeah, and I've waited 50 years to do some of them.
So now that you have finally come into the Semiramide, into this, do you feel like you found a better answer for David Pountney?
No. I love it. I love the artifact, and I think it's profoundly dramatic on some levels, this opera. And I think you have to work so hard, because it's what Tony was saying earlier. It's written in a somewhat marmoreal and magnificent and grand style, and the recitatives are I mean, it's not verismo. It's neoclassic, really, and without destroying that shape and the grandeur and everything, you've got to give every moment tension, and you have to have contrast all the time. If you get stuck in one mode, in one scene between two people, even once, it's boring. So, and it's this thing about getting the tension, getting the drama, getting the orchestra to come along with that. And luckily we have Tony, who's, you know, ultra theatrical and ultra sensitive about timing and about, you know, drama and contrast and pacing and all that, and that's what you need.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really hard. It's not Janacek. I'm moaning down the hallways in between rehearsals, I want to do Katya again. No, because, you know, it's not pure theater as we know it, it's something else. But in it is buried a very intense drama. But you just have to know how to get at it with, and yet maintain the style and the vocal style and everything. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, especially by the time the second act is off and running, it starts off with a huge duet, finally, the confrontation between Semiramide and Assur. And it's where there's a shift of power back and forth during this 12-minute scene.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
very
quite
dramatic.
Broken.
The problem
it
is
feels like we're in Shakespeare at that point.
The 2-hour-long first act. No, which is brilliant, and which there's a lot of exciting things happen, but it's somewhat grandiose. And finally we get to the real crunch in the second act, and that's much easier, you know.
How do you deal with the chorus, for example? Because in some ways, the characters seem to play their own within the scenes, but this grandiosity, this formality of it, then the chorus is trudged on and off, and that's hard to integrate.
It is,
but
because
I think
the chorus is,
I
mean, I think I've done better this time than I did in Munich last year. Last year, I tried to keep the chorus very static, and because the chorus is not a protagonist in this piece, the chorus is onlookers, but now this, but then to be honest, I thought it was a bit boring last year, the work that I got out of the chorus in Munich. So this time, I've tried to make it much more, first of all, physical, and more at stake for them. And I think it's working really well. And the choruses here is totally brilliant, so no problem. It's easy. Not a problem.
They are.
Very well prepared and very in it.
I remember, this is one of the reasons I enjoy working with you a lot, is because...
But honey, we never worked together.
We've been working together all year.
Now we're going to do the Les Troyens by Berlioz next. You don't know that yet.
I don't know that.
No, that's just my idea.
Fantastic.
If anybody wants to finance it, I want to do it on the shores of where Carthage used to be. Eh?
Oh, yeah.
Where you were.
Oh, in Tyr.
Tyr, yeah.
Oh, my.
Okay?
Wait, that would be incredible.
Okay, come on.
Sorry, just give us a second. When are you? The setting is already there.
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
But one of the reasons is because you create a landscape where a lot is possible. And the one thing that was eluding me as we were going through this piece back in January in the chilly, chilly Munich, was Bel Raggio. Because the first scene, it's been 15 years since she's been in public, and she comes, and she's about to declare the new king, and the heavens open, and earthquakes happen, and this ghost that she's been haunted by, and she's scared to death. And the next time we see her is Bel Raggio, which is normally
aria,
this,
right.
And then as soon as it ends, this happy, chirpy aria,
then
somebody comes
the
in
dark
and says,
queen again. Yeah, right.
and the next thing she says is, oh my God, my hands are trembling. And I thought, David, this doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Bel Raggio has to have nervousness in it. And it's, of course, she's talking about that Arsace will come back and everything will be fantastic.
This
like
young
a
man who
beautiful
she's
ray.
in love with, yeah.
But I think the way I've reconciled this, and we found this together, is she's willing it to happen, because if it doesn't happen, everything collapses around
I'm the
her.
director to go to if you want to turn a sweet and beautiful aria into a psychodrama.
You're my man.
Okay. Now I have to say something about Joyce in here, because this is one of the really extraordinary things about this production of Semiramide is what Joyce is doing in the role, because as you heard earlier, the role was first of all brought back for Joan Sutherland, then it was sung by Caballé, June Anderson, all dramatic coloraturas who took the role and ornamented it up, it was actually written originally for, what's her name?
Isabella Colbran.
Isabella Colbran, the wife of Rossini. He wrote many of his great operas for her, and she was not a high coloratura. She had a darker, lower voice, and the role of Semiramide is really not a high, brilliant role. It's like a role in a Racine drama. It's darker, it's about the words, and it's not a chirpy coloratura. It's a dark lady. And Joyce is, to be honest, is singing it really the first time I've ever heard anybody sing it. in a really dramatic and a different way. Not only because you don't want to sing the high E's, it's not really appropriate, actually. And this is very revealing about the opera and the color of the overall color of the opera. I think it's a very unusual and very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
As a spoiler, there's no high E's in the opera. David, thank you.
Larry sings several of them, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
More, please, more,
Yes,
please.
right.
No, he's extra. Actually, it's Michele Pertusi is singing
Yes.
the role of Assur, and he's a seasoned, astonishing
Brilliant
Rossini interpreter.
basso.
And
yeah.
so we have an incredible team
We
on
do.
this.
There's only me to blame if it doesn't go right.
No.
Okay.
I think we're going to surprise people.
I hope so.
With
yeah.
with what this piece is.
Yeah.
That's what we want anyway.
Absolutely.
We open on November 19th, and we go till December 16th. Of course, you can find your tickets on the Royal Opera House website, which I have to say is, I think, the best opera website. It is astonishing, the wealth of material that you can find there. So you can go there, book your tickets. Really, do not miss this. This is an event, and we want you there. We want to share this with you. Those of you who have been following on YouTube, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thanks for tuning in. Now go off and listen to some music. Close your computer.
I suggest Stockhausen.
Fantastic. Not before they go to bed.
After
No.
Rossini. Yes.
Thank you as well to all of you who have joined us, you loyal, fantastic supporters of the Royal Opera House here. From the Clore Studio at the Royal Opera House, we are so happy that you joined us. Come back for the next one, and November 19th, we'll see you in Babylonia. Thank you, David. Thank you. Did I say everything I needed? Good night.
Good night. And good luck.